mediocre, but we have the opportunity to play like gods for the next half of football. But we can't be afraid to lose. There's no room for fear in this game.
This is the New Hampshire High School Football Show.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Can't stand the way this place is. Take yourself to higher places.
I don't want them to gain another yard.
You blitz all night. If they cross the line of scrimmage, I'm going to take every last one of you out.
The New Hampshire High School Football Show is brought to you by the New Hampshire State Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement.
You got heart, charisma, and a lot of skill.
Take yourself to higher places.
And now, here are your hosts, Pete Terrier and Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com.
Clear eyes, full hearts.
Can't lose.
Let's go play some football.
Good morning and welcome to the Week 3 edition of the New Hampshire High School Football Show. We do it every Saturday morning during the football season between 8 and 9 a.m. on two fine stations, News Radio 610 and 96.7. I am Pete Terrier, along with my co-host Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com. David, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pete.
You know, I love September weather. I love it when the season's just getting started. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of hope around the state of New Hampshire high school football. And then you see those hopes being dashed. Teams going into a Week 3 game thinking that they're a contender in their respective divisions, and then finding out when they meet the true mettle of that division that it's not necessarily going to work out that way. We'll talk about a bunch of the games that took place last night. Both you and I attended games last night. But why don't we run down the full scoreboard, brought to you by New Hampshire Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement and that Buyers Beware program, reminding all adults it's against the law to provide alcohol to minors. And yeah, even if your team is 2-0 and looking real good going into Week 3.
Yeah, this is just like a bloody battlefield looking over some of these scores from last night. We'll start with the game that you and the great John Kesty were at last night for us. Bedford 19-0 over Londonderry. I think we learned that Londonderry, well, we're going to talk about this obviously, but I think we learned Londonderry's defense is a little better than we thought.
I think so.
But that was a slugfest, and some people had predicted that that's the kind of game Bedford wanted, and they got it, and they won. Alvern with a 42-32 win over Dover. I don't know why this game surprises me, but it does. But that's a good win for Alvern, 42-32 over Dover. Kearsarge has got a lot of press coverage with a forfeit win over Hanover. I'm sure we'll probably allude to that one later. Laconia with a 21-20 win over Kingswood. Sachems get their first win of the year in Division 2. I'm going to call it right now. Pete Terrier's Concord team, the Crimson, with a 55-0 win over Merrimack. That's a Merrimack team that put up over 40 points last week, but Concord is
over 50 last week. They scored 100.
They did on Memorial?
They've been averaging 50 in their two games going into last night.
And they scored nothing.
None.
Yeah.
And let me just interject for a second here. And I thank you for giving me props on Concord. I said last week Concord may be the team to beat in Division 1. And you were like, You know, I think people sort of believed it and said, yeah, it is possible. But I think last night further solidified that statement that I made, that they may be the best team. Now, look, we got a Winnicott Exeter game this afternoon that's going to have a lot to say with that. But and still, Concord's got to play Bedford. I think they got Pinkerton coming up as well. But, hey, don't sleep on this Concord team, because I think they may be the best team in the state.
Yeah, I think people will say that. Like you say because you've heard that they're going to be back a few years here with Tolbert Nemo and so forth. But I still want to. I want to see them play Bedford or Pinkerton. I believe in them. I think they're a terrific football team. They're in the conversation. So, but yeah, impressive win, 55-0 there. Milford 48-0 over Conval. We warned you before we began this. 48-0 over Conval. Conval is off to a absolutely brutal start. I'm not even sure Conval scored this season yet. Nashua South, this was a game that played very early, and Trevor Knight returned. Nashua South with a 38-13 win over Timberlane. Nashua South is another team that belongs in that conversation.
I saw some of that game yesterday because it started at 4:30. I went. I only saw a few possessions in the second quarter, but we can talk a little bit about that game and what I saw.
Okay, yeah. I was speaking of stopping by, so I went by the Portsmouth game last night. Showed up late in the first quarter. Plenty of time. You're not going to miss anything. It was 21-0, soon 28-0 as I walked in the door. So Portsmouth 48-14 over Merrimack Valley. This was 48-0 at halftime. Portsmouth called the Dogs off, and
48-0 at halftime.
At halftime,
Whoa.
running time, they missed an extra point. It could have been 49-0.
Wow.
They called the Dogs off running time in the second half. We'll talk more about this one, but I wanted to see if Merrimack Valley was a legit contender. They're not. Still a nice story, but they're certainly not. Epping Newmarket, another afternoon game, beats Raymond 20-12. Pelham with a 28-14 win over Somersworth. That's a good win. That was back and forth for a while, but they get the W there. Final two scores: Spalding 26-0 over Nashua North. The Fighting McIsaacs moved to 2-1, and Trinity all over Lebanon 42-6 for the W there. So a lot of quite a few three shutouts last night.
A lot of good games today, Dave. I already alluded to that Winnacunnet Exeter game. Get there early, folks, if you plan on going. I've been seeing, following the stories, the pregame stories on seacoastonline.com, talking about 4,500, maybe 5,000 people expected at that game. We will have the nhsportspage.com video camera out there.
Yep.
So we're doing the full highlight play-by-play package of that game. We also do have the coverage coming up on the website this morning from that Bedford Londonderry game last night. You got the Queen City battle, probably a Turkey Bowl spot on the line, even in week 3. Central at Memorial, that game's 1 o'clock. Previously, that game had been scheduled for last night. They moved it to today. West at Goffstown. You got Pinkerton at Salem. Good one tonight at Stello Stadium.
Yeah.
Keene at BG. That one could potentially knock one of the other teams out of the playoff picture in
already.
that the West Division or the West Conference in Division 1.
That has been a very, very good rivalry going back to 6-7 years now. That Keene's, remember, knocked off that great BG team years ago. They beat Keene had a bad
You're
down
right. I think
year.
it was a 7-0 shutout.
Yeah.
The game you're talking about.
And 2 years ago, with Lucas Lupa and those guys, Keene didn't make the tournament, but they beat BG on senior night at home.
Yeah.
And sort of was like their playoff game, and they beat BG. Those teams don't get along very well, which always makes a pretty good rivalry. And another big rivalry, it's been owned by Plymouth for a while, but Kennett-Plymouth is their biggest game of the year for both teams. The Plymouth kids all answer, whenever I ask them, what's your biggest rival, they all say Kennett or Laconia. And Kennett, that's a huge game for them. And
just think about this for a second. They play their big rivalry game 1 week before the real biggest game of the season for them, and that's when they come to Manchester next Saturday afternoon.
3:30.
Is it a 3:30 kickoff?
I talked to Steve Burns this week, yeah.
All right, so that game's next Saturday, Plymouth at Trinity. There's going to be a crowd at that game, too. No, I don't think it's going to be 4,500 like you'll see at Exeter today. Certainly Gill Stadium can hold that type of crowd, but that's going to be a hell of a game. I plan on being at that game.
Yeah, Plymouth, as do I. Plymouth is a lot like Conant in basketball, where when they come to town, a lot of people like to come out and just try to get a sense of how good they really are, and that's just the respect that program has.
Some games in Division 2 besides that Kennett at Plymouth game today. Souhegan at Wyndham. You got Monadnock at Hollis Brookline. So local people here in southern New Hampshire want to take a look at this Monadnock Huskies team and see what they're all about. They're going to be taking on the Cavaliers this afternoon at 2 o'clock. You got Pembroke at Sanborn. Game starts at 3. St. Thomas, hey, their team that's kind of flying under the radar. They may be better than people think. They lost Monette last year to graduation, but they seem to be clicking on all cylinders. They got a sophomore quarterback, Martin, who's throwing the football all over the place. They're going to take on John Stark tonight at 7 o'clock under the lights in Ware. Division 3, you got Stevens at Bow, Brady at Campbell, Farmington Newt at Winnisquam at 1:30. Your Guilford Golden Eagles.
1-1, baby.
Interlakes, Moultonborough. I'm sure that's a big rivalry game in the Lakes region. Newfound at Franklin. And then 6 o'clock start in Langdon, New Hampshire. Newport at Fall Mountain. No comment.
Yeah, no, Fall Mountain's pretty good this year. They've gotten better. They just started. They had a JV program for the last few years, so I'm engrossed in the Guilford game. It's a big win over there. That's that division over there. It was Inner Lakes, Winnisquam, Franklin. Franklin's down this year, even with Corey Parent.
Last week, I think it was last week, and Guilford had yet to play when we did the show.
Yeah.
And they were coming off a loss and facing a team that, got smoked the week before, and you said, I fear that my Guilford Golden Eagles aren't very good. What do you know? They go out and they pull out a win.
They listen to me.
And you,
Probably
I think,
angry.
in our staff picks, were the only guy to pick Guilford. And I'm going to ask you, was that a homer pick?
Yeah, of course it is.
All right.
Well, wait a second. We just came off a huge win. We're ready to roll.
right.
Leave my Golden Eagle. Jack Athanas and the boys up there.
All right.
Ready to go.
We're going to try and connect with Bill Ball from Exeter. I say try. He said he would come on, but I got reservations whether or not he will actually answer the phone. Not because he doesn't like us, but just because I think he's kind of busy getting ready for this game today. So I'm going to say we're going to try and hook up with Bill Ball about 8:45, 8:50 this morning. So I look forward to that conversation.
Just one of the games of the year today?
Yeah, it certainly is.
Yeah, it has to.
And I don't know,
Two defending champs.
Look, I haven't seen either team so far, so I'm really looking forward to seeing both teams in person. But I don't know if it's going to be. I mean, last year when they played each other, that was the game of the year. Just excitement and the level of competition and the way it went down and the upset factor and all that. And Ben Franzoso running all over the place, getting hurt in that game. And then it was just a great game. I don't know if it's going to be that type of game. I certainly hope so. But the crowds are going to be into it, and I'm really looking forward to that. So let's hope we can hook up with Coach Ball a little bit later in the program. We'll talk at length about the the Bedford Londonderry game, which I now see is the highlight package up on nhsportspage.com if you want to check it out. I want to talk to you about that Merrimack Valley team, the game against Portsmouth last night, what you saw. We'll talk a little bit about Nashua South and Trevor Knight. We'll just kind of go around the state of football here in New Hampshire. It is the New Hampshire High School Football Show. We'll take a time out. We're breaking in a brand new producer, too, and Shannon Loconti. She's doing a great job, and I've known Shannon for a while around the radio station, and I'm glad she's finally getting a shot to do some work here and actually get paid for it. It's a good thing. So be nice to Shannon. All right, give us a call and say, hey, Shannon, you're doing a great job making those idiots sound good. It is the New Hampshire High School Football Show. News Radio 610.
Local coverage of New Hampshire High School football on the New Hampshire High School Football Show on News Radio 610 and 96.7.
All right, guys, welcome back. It is the New Hampshire High School Football Show. Pete Terrier along with Dave Haley, nhsportspage.com. Both of us attending football games on the fields. Dave on the seacoast, thinking that it was going to be a good matchup, hoping that it was going to be a good matchup, maybe the better way to state it. Merrimack Valley coming in at 2-0, going against a 1-1 Portsmouth team. And like he said, 48-0 Portsmouth at the half. Merrimack Valley not quite ready for prime time just yet.
No, and it was. You could see they were very disheartened. The last touchdown, I think it was a touchdown reception by Jake Becker of Portsmouth. Some of the Merrimack Valley kids stopped chasing at the end, and they came out and played hard in the second half, but it was an opening kickoff for a touchdown, and then first pass of the game for Merrimack Valley was a pick six by Jack Young. So it was 14-0, 58 seconds into the game.
So Ivan Niamagabo, I got the pronunciation.
Niamagabo.
Niamagabo. It's not as bad as it looks. All right. Is he a junior or a senior?
He's a junior. He throws a nice ball. I mean, he threw 4 interceptions last night, but he throws, the ball comes out nice out of his hands. He had a couple of throws. I tweeted this. He had a couple of throws he put right on guys' hands that they dropped. So, he was under constant pressure all night long. They were all over him, and it just got away from them really quickly. But at the beginning of the season, we said, it's a 3-team race, really, we think. Plymouth, Trinity, Portsmouth, Milford, or Wyndham, maybe that 4th team. I don't think we're 3 weeks in. I don't think it's any different today than what we thought.
That tells you how good Trinity is, too, I think.
Yeah.
Because for Trinity to, and they won 58-37 week one. We were both there. It seemed like Trinity dominated that game, to me, anyway. Well, they controlled that. Maybe not dominated, but I thought they controlled that game the entire way.
They got a big early. The thing that people kind of forget or maybe overlook in that first game, Trinity was the better team, deserved to win. No question. But when Donovan Fenor went out right off the bat, he didn't play at quarterback, and then Nate McFarland later with a neck injury went down. That's 2 defensive backs that they lost. Yeah, you lost your first 2 quarterbacks. Connor DeCesare came in and played pretty well that night. But you lost 2 defensive backs. So, I mean, Trinity was running wild down the field that night, and I thought for whatever reason, Portsmouth was not prepared for Trinity to come out and run the ball like that because, I mean, you were there. Kids were flying down the field wide open.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, there were some great throws by Carmen, but there were other kids that were 20 yards open. I mean, it was terrible coverage. So Portsmouth is always a team that rallies, and if they're healthy come the end of the year, I think... we saw Plymouth blow out Trinity last year, and then when they played in the championship, it was one of the all-time great games. I think you could see the same thing again if they do get back to each other.
Well, and they're not in the same conference, so
it'll be semifinals.
They don't have to worry about facing either Plymouth or Trinity in their conference championship,
which is good.
game.
Yeah.
So it looks like they're going to have like St. Thomas or something like that, and it might be another case that you know what. Here, we're facing a team that's not quite ready for prime time just yet.
Yeah.
But you never know. I mean, it's interesting. It's good to see Portsmouth bounce back. And you were right, Dave. You said, hey, this is who Portsmouth has over the next 3-4 weeks. They're going to win all those games 49-0.
Yeah.
What do you know? So you were right about that.
Yeah.
The game that I was at, and I was interested to see Londonderry. They were 2-0 coming in. They had scored a lot of points. They beat up on West. Everybody's basically going to beat up on West this year. It's unfortunate. But that's the way it is.
Yeah.
They're not very good. So if you're, an upper echelon team, you're going to have your way with Manchester West. They won a slugfest, a shootout with Goffstown last Saturday afternoon, and so they were 2-0. You got Bedford on the other side, tough win in week 1 against Pinkerton, and then they blew out West 61-0. What's going to happen? Something's got to give. All right. It was a good football game.
Yeah.
Londonderry's defense is a lot better than I thought. Their offense, they need some work. They lost Michael Ryan late in the preseason to an ACL tear. Tore up his knee. So he's out for the year. He was outstanding sophomore running back this year, and they were expecting big things from him. Give him another option in that single wing. Dennis Bishop's a kid that you've heard him over the last couple of years. He's got some skills. He was largely contained last night. Didn't really have any breakaway runs or anything like that. I think he finished with under 70 yards or so. I wasn't totaling up the stats. I'll have to check Roger Brown's story in the Union Leader and see what... Roger here in today's edition of the Union Leader says that Bishop had 65 yards on 8 carries. So that's a pretty good per carry average, but they really contained him. Londonderry wasn't able to sustain drives. They really didn't even get into the red zone, I don't think, all night long. I'll have to kind of... Like I said, look over Roger's story and look at the tape because we have the highlight package up on nhsportspage.com. But they didn't really have any deep penetration. And Bedford, to me, they're not the Bedford juggernaut from last year offensively. Their quarterback, Dan Kalala, is good, but he's not great like Caparel was. You got the Valus cousins. They do a lot for that team, more than just catching passes. You got Mike Bayless lined up in the backfield, sort of like a pistol formation behind the shotgun quarterback, getting handoffs. They run a lot of Patriot-like wide receiver screens. This is a good football team. They're very good on defense. They're averaging 4 points against them in their 3 games so far this year. Pinkerton scored them all. They had 12 in week 1, back-to-back shutouts since then. That's 4 points a game given up when you do the math. I think Bedford's very, very good, but I still see Concord as probably being better than them. I think they're more well-rounded. I moved Concord actually into the number 2 position on my the Union Leader WGIR WMUR Power Poll ballot. I moved Concord to number 2 behind Exeter, and I'm giving Exeter that number 1 spot because of their defending champion, because they went out to Keene and won last week, and I'll get to see them in person this afternoon, so I can really have a good judgment on that. But I think Bedford's right there, and they're definitely going to be contending for the championship in D1, but I see Concord as a little bit better right now.
Yeah, how was Gaudet, the quarterback for Londonderry?
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't throw the ball. The one pass play that really had a chance and almost gave Londonderry their only points of the game, they had a halfback option pass. I think it was to Fairweather, number 10, Eric Fairweather, who's got some skills.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Fairweather, Bishop, Gaudette, they can do some things, but they really don't have any receivers. They usually only employ one receiver, this kid, Nathaniel Kelly, but they just, that's a running football team, Londonderry, and they're going to be able to run the ball against some of the weaker teams, but against these tough top-flight teams, they're not going to be able to do it.
Speaking of which, Londonderry's next two games are at Pinkerton and at Concord.
Right. So they got their, that's going from 2-0 to 2-3 most likely for Londonderry. But I'll tell you what, that defense, they've got some big kids. Londonderry's always had big kids. They've always had a lot of big kids. And they're sound defensively. I thought they got tired. This was a 7-0 game, Dave, with 6:29 left to go. That's when Bedford scored the touchdown.
Wear him down.
To make it 13-0. Bedford's got problems with the kicking game. They should probably start going for 2. And Bedford, they don't have as good a running game as they did last year with Dylan York. They started the game with Aaron Pallas, kind of a tough runner. Got some speed, but sort of a between the tackles guy. He didn't play in the second half on offense. He was only playing on defense. And then they brought in Brian Collins' little brother, Michael Collins. Remember Brian Collins, the outstanding receiver last year?
URI now.
Michael Collins, who was a junior. He was able to run the football a little bit and pick up some good first downs. But I see that being their weak spot. They have to put Mike Vallis in, into a running back position to really be effective and mix it up a little bit running the football. And the quarterback Kalala can run it too.
Yeah, we have a very good chance to have. We could see a 6-0. We should see really a 6-0 Bedford team play on October 18th against Concord at Concord. Next 3 games for Bedford are Salem, all at home. Salem, Goffstown, and Memorial at home. Concord is going to have Bedford and Pinkerton in back-to-back weeks, which is going to be something else. And you probably sit here and say, why are we talking about stuff 3-4 weeks away? Honestly, because there's a lot of mismatches. I mean, we knew this was going to happen when you go from you condense it down to 3 divisions. But
it also happened last year. It also happened when it was 6 divisions too. There was mismatches when there was 6 divisions.
Oh well, yeah. It just feels like there's more.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's just my perception. It's not the reality. But you look at Salem and Goffstown the next 2 games. I mean, I don't expect Bedford to struggle there. And Memorial, same sort of thing. Memorial is pretty good offensively. They got a real good wide receiver over there, but defensively they're not. So Bedford is the kind of team that is. They can be, they've won now 2 of these slugfests, quote unquote. Like a 14-12 win and 19-0 win, and I think Kurt Hines got to be pretty happy about that. That's a good defense.
All right, we'll take a timeout, come back, and we'll go around the state a little bit and kind of look at some things that maybe raised an eyebrow. I know that you had said earlier that Alvern game, the big comeback against Dover, raised an eyebrow. It did with me as well. We do our staff picks on nhsportspage.com, and I'm just having a real tough time. I'm supposedly, expert on New Hampshire high school football. I've got a vote in the Union Leader WGIR WMUR Power Poll, but I can tell you what, I cannot pick games because I just look at my results and I'm like, what was I thinking? Who knows? We'll talk a little bit about that when we return to the New Hampshire High School Football Show, News Radio 610 and 96.7.
Central to Somersworth and Portsmouth to Plymouth. The New Hampshire High School Football Show brings you the best coverage in the state on News Radio 610 and 96.7.
Yes, we do each and every Saturday morning between 8 and 9 a.m. Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley from nhsportspage.com. And Dave, I got to congratulate you on the site. The new nhsportspage.com. It debuted last week while we were doing the show.
Yeah, I know.
And it looks awesome. I'm very proud to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Except for the part where I have to do my weekly staff picks, and I just basically stink up the joint.
I got to look at this thing. Yeah, no, we've worked really hard on this, and Elliot Bless has been huge behind the scenes getting this taken care of. But we put a lot of money, a lot of resources into this, and hoping to the more that that we can make happen with this website, the more coverage we can provide. And I hear all the time, when are you going to cover girls basketball? And trust me, we want to, and hopefully we will soon. You are 11-9 in the staff. I'm 14-6 coming into this. I don't think I've lost a game yet.
At least I'm over 500.
Yeah, you're hanging in there.
You know,
it's a long road to hoe.
Yeah, I'm just looking at last
the only
night.
guy who picked Guilford over Interlakes.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that, and I was upset about see how like you do with Joe Marcellina's site nh-highschoolsports.com. He does picks and he sends out his games, and we have different games. We did not pick that Alvin Dover game on the nhsportspage.com website. So
I picked Dover,
and we know that the teams read this. It's funny because if you look there and you see the game of the week coverage, Bedford Londonderry last night. After the game, Nick Bayless and Mike Bayless, they're cousins, and they were on the field and talking with their family. And Mike's dad, which is Nick Bayless, I go over there and I say, hey Nick. To the younger Nick Bayless, and I say, hey, can you come over? And he knew exactly, he recognized me, he knew what I was looking for, what I wanted, and they gathered him up, and we did the interview after the game on the field. But these kids know, they like it, they follow it.
Oh yeah,
they really enjoy the coverage that we provide.
We do it for them. I got accosted on the field by Steve Burns, the Trinity coach, because I had picked Portsmouth over them, and it was quite a scene out there. So he was going to try to take me down in the middle of the field.
Yeah, he said he didn't want to talk to us.
No. He's old, just so everyone knows. He's an old college friend of mine. So
were you guys roommates in college?
No, we would have killed each other.
Oh, man.
No, he was a intramural official, and he used to call technicals on me all the time as my team was cruising to championships. He was there to try to put me in my place. But yeah, no, it's fun to do, and I'm looking at these last night. The great John Kessie and I are the only two people to pick Pelham over Somersworth, so we got that one right. And then Elliot Bless, Merrimack Valley over Portsmouth.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
That was going on a limb.
And he picked Merrimack over Concord, too.
How about
got to take his vote away.
How about the Spalding Red Raiders? All right, surprised me last week by beating Timberlane, who I think is a decent team.
Decent.
But Spalding, I'm not surprised that they beat Nashua North. They shut them out last night 26-0, but Spalding looks like they're a team. The only issue for them is they're in a real tough conference. They're in the Exeter-Winnicunnet Conference. But Spalding's looking pretty good. Trey Scott's having a good year. They got another good running back by the name of Tyler Snow. Got to give credit to Jeff Hunt, first-year head coach of the Spalding Red Raiders.
What's that? The fourth head coach in 4 years, I think.
I think it's their third head coach in 3 years.
Feels like 4 and 4, but I'm going to go with you. Yeah, they're always. Again, let me ask this: when does it feel like you got a real sense of what's going on here? Do you feel like it's 4 weeks in, 5 weeks in? As crazy as it sounds, I was saying to John before the show, after next week we're halfway through the regular season.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I have like a great sense. I mean, Spalding hasn't. They've been fine, but winning over Timberlane and North doesn't tell me. You know what I mean?
No, you're right. You just don't know. And
yeah.
I think it may be in this situation. This is a one-shot deal here. This realignment. This is a 1-year experiment.
Most people feel like it's going to be a 1-year experiment. I think it can go to 4.
They could bring it back again next year, but this could be just a one-shot deal. I don't see it getting mixed up again. They might tweak it a little bit next year, but I see this coming back and being the same thing. Alvern, congratulations, Coach Mark Phillips. Gino, as he's known as. I got a coworker here who grew up with Mark Phillips, and he tells me that Gino, that's what he calls him, Gino. So congratulations to you, Gino, for winning your first game as head coach of the Alvern Broncos. I saw Alvern play against Nashville South last week, at least the first half of the game before it got suspended by Thunder and Lightning. They had to resume it the next day. I didn't think Alvern was very good. Lucas Notini is a pretty good running back.
Yeah, he is.
But I didn't really see it. And
Dover's
they rallied from I picked Dover in Marcellina's
I did too.
Picks.
I did too.
And Dover was up 21-0. I was like patting myself on the back. And then what do you know? Alvern goes on to win the game 42-32.
I was talking to a friend of mine on the Seacoast who told me that the deal with Dover, because their enrollment numbers are pretty good, but they don't have many players on that team. Ken Osborne doesn't have enough kids to work with really easily. And I heard that they have a rec league football that a ton of kids play in, and they don't play on the team because
high school age rec league.
Yeah,
I wonder if the
that's
Dover,
what I was told. If I'm wrong, that's what I was told. So
I wonder if the Dover Green Wave varsity team played that rec league team, who would win?
I don't know. I mean, all you 2 or 3 playmakers on that rec, you know what I mean, can make all the difference.
When I was in, remember I told you about how I played basketball
CYO stories. Here we go.
with Dave Jackson, the head coach of Merrimack Valley.
Yeah.
We played on a rec league team, and we scrimmaged the Nashua High School varsity team, and if we didn't beat them, it was really, really close.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. There was a kid from Memorial who played with what was it, Kevin Cheverfields? What was Chevy's name?
Cheverfields.
Yeah, a couple years ago, there was a guy who came on senior year and started for Memorial the year they went to the championship against Trinity in basketball, and he'd been ripping up the rec league. And I remember saying to him, like, "How's a kid like you playing in the rec league?" And sometimes they
Central
don't
had a kid like that. They had a kid from Shaughnessy was his name. He was a shooter, 3-point shooter, and he was playing CYO, and then he came and played senior year for Doc Wheeler. So it can happen.
Yeah, so.
Trinity, we talked about that a little bit earlier. They beat up on Lebanon last night, 42-6. Remember when Lebanon had that one awesome year with Cody Patch? And I remember Trinity couldn't beat them. That was, I don't remember what division that was. I think Trinity was in Division 4. Early.
Division 4.
Because they were in 5, then they moved up to 4, now they're in Division 2.
They did 1 year.
Milford, you mentioned the 48-0. I think Milford's better than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
They gave Trinity all they could handle last week, and Trinity ended up having to come from behind to beat them. Epping, Newmarket, 20-12 over Raymond. I'm reading a lot about this kid, Jake Walensky, the outstanding linebacker, a tackle machine.
He's like 15 tackles last week or something like that.
And his coach, Ross Salovich, I don't know how to pronounce it, went to my alma mater, Husson College. So now it's Husson University. And they actually have a football team. When I went there, and I graduated in 91 from Husson, we didn't have a football team.
3 degrees of Pete Terrier today here on the show.
Well, good job, Coach Salovich.
There we go.
That Husson Braves, I don't even know if they're still the Husson Braves. They were when I was there, but politically correct world that we're in now, they're probably not.
The Husson Braves.
Pelham! Another one I got
Pythons. The Pythons are good. I was getting updates from my buddy Matt Regan, their basketball coach.
Yeah, I saw that. I just followed him on Twitter too.
My guy right there. He, they had that's a nice win over Somersworth. 2 very good programs. Pelham's back again.
All right, we'll go to a break quickly because Bill Ball is calling me on my cell phone right now. Quick break, more back, hopefully with Bill Ball from Exeter when we return.
You found the best place for local high school football talk. It's a New Hampshire High School Football Show on News Radio 610 and 96.7.
Big game this afternoon out on the Seacoast. Exeter, the number 1 team in the Union Leader WGIR WMUR Power Poll, 2-time defending Division I champs. It's a conference game. It is a division game this year. It counts in the standings. The Winnicott Warriors coming into town. Big rivalry game. Here to talk about it with us, the head coach and athletic director at Exeter High School, Bill Ball. Coach Ball, good morning, and thanks for spending a couple of minutes on such a big day for you.
Yeah, how you guys doing?
We're doing great. We're expecting a huge crowd there today. I'm reading 4,500, 5,000. How many seats are inside the stadium named after you, Bill Ball Stadium?
I think you can probably get, 4,000 seated and around the field, probably another 1,000. So there's plenty of room for a lot of people.
Coach, you've had so far, and only a small sampling, but you've had 10 different players carry the ball for you. But really, the 2 guys who have been the main 2 guys for you are Jay Nzenga and Ryan Kelly. Everybody's kind of used to seeing Tyler Grant and that great cast that you had last year. What can you tell us about these guys?
Yeah, like I said, we're new in the back end of the offense, in the backfield, and on the defense. So it's pretty competitive. It's an ongoing process and evaluation, and we're trying to develop that that 3rd, 4th, and 5th back in our offense. We really need it, and so it's we're pushing, and we're hoping to find a couple of guys who really take the burden off the other 2.
Coach, you're a pretty straightforward guy, and you don't like a lot of hype and hyperbole. But I saw in some of the pregame coverage, mostly on Seacoast Online with our buddy Ryan O'Leary, it seems like you're actually admitting that this game kind of means a lot. I mean, it may mean more than the other games that you play on the schedule because it is such a big rivalry game.
Yeah, it's a huge rivalry. It always has and always will be. And, back to 1920s and probably played 90 times, and it means a lot to both communities and both schools. And it's a healthy rivalry. It's a good rivalry. We had a lot of games yesterday, and sportsmanship was outstanding. So expect no less today.
And do you have to kind of dial some of the kids back? I mean, I'm sure as a head coach you probably have, and with your staff, you have a read on these kids. Some kids maybe you got to calm down a little bit. Other kids, you just kind of have to. I know you guys are used to big games like this. Pinkerton has become a huge rivalry with you guys, but this is for first place in the division. This is 2 defending champs, and this is from all the Winnicott and Exeter kids I've talked to. This is the biggest game of the year for these kids, even when it was a non-division game. I mean, do you feel like you have to take the temperature of your team in the locker room before something like this?
Yeah, you have to do that. You have to temper that, and I think the other thing you have to do is you have to be smart and you have to look ahead to the weather, and certainly I think hydration. We started talking about it on a Wednesday. It's going to be hot out there, and you add the turf to it, it adds another 8 to 10 degrees. So, you have to really make sure you pay attention to all the hidden yardage. There's a lot of hidden yardage out there, and I think hydration is a big one on a day like today. It's supposed to get a little sticky out there, and the turf always brings a little bit more.
Coach, I got one more for you, then we'll let you go. But it's hard to believe that 3 seasons ago you went through your first season in Division I and you were winless. You guys were competitive in those games, but you were winless. Since then, you've put together 2 state championships back to back, and now you're, firmly entrenched as a team to beat and a team to be reckoned with in the division every single year. What can you say is the biggest difference now between that first year in Division I when you couldn't beat anybody?
Well, I say it all the time, and we were young that year, and we struggled. We couldn't get over the hump. We were really competitive with the team that won the state championship. We lost to them on the goal line down at the end of the game, that being Pinkerton, and double overtime. The Memorial, you have to go back. We had Central, Wrigley won them, and so we were close. There was no reason for panic. I think we would have been that year, probably a little bit of an average team and a little below average team in Division II also. But, we knew we'd just stay with it and, we stay around long enough, good things happen, and we're fortunate. We had great kids, great leadership in the off-season program, and they're able to, turn some of those 50-50 games.
Well, Coach, we're really looking forward to, I'm looking forward to personally to seeing you guys in person for the first time this year. We'll have the nhsportspage.com camera out there, so we'll have a nice full video highlight package for you up on the website, and should be a fun game. Winnicott Exeter at the stadium named after our guest, Bill Ball Stadium in Exeter. Thanks so much for the time on a game day Saturday morning, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day. All
right, see you later. Bill Ball from Exeter, stand-up guy, and that guy's got a program. I mean, we talked about last year, they kind of have a military-type feel to them because they're all business, the Exeter Blue Hawks.
Yeah, this is a big one. I was reading a tweet while you were interviewing Coach Ball from Inghal Wiesner, the quarterback for Winnicott, just saying how he wants it so bad it hurts, and this is it. I mean, tweeting about it already. I mean, this is a big one. I mean, I don't think I realized 5-6 years ago how big this rivalry is in every sport. I mean, this is Exeter and Winnicott is huge. I mean, obviously those schools are 2 exits apart. It's for first place today. It's a big one. And they may play again in the playoffs, too.
Well, they're probably going to.
Yeah.
And it would be for the conference championship game.
Yeah.
And, the winner of that game moving on to the Final Four, so to speak. You mentioned the tweet by Wiesner, the quarterback from Winnicott. I see a lot of players that are now graduated, tweeting, and I can't remember who specifically it was, but it was one of the Winnicott players from last year, and he said, man, I wish I could play another game against Exeter.
Yeah.
That's how much it means to these guys. They miss, and they'll be coming back to see this game today.
Yeah.
This
is big.
And look, I don't know how good Winnicott is. I mean, I know that they beat BG in the opening game of the season at BG. They had to survive a last-second field goal, like a 50-yard field goal attempt that fell a little bit short. And then Winnicott, who they play last week?
Winnicott beat Nashville North last week.
Okay,
and they were down 7-0 right off the bat. All
right, so they played a tough team in BG. I think North, for some reason, they're struggling this year. Really can't score offensively. North did something interesting. Jason Roby, who've been playing a lot of spread, over the past several years, he's had great offensive talent. Really prior to last year, they took a step back. They were young. They used that Exeter T formation, and it kind of surprised Winnicott, I think, and they were able to score some points and score a touchdown on a trick play. I think like a halfback option or something like that, and an interception return by Dimitri Jackson, who got hurt last night in that game that North played against Spalding, but. You just don't know as much about Winnicott because they don't really have a marquee win or even BG's a quality opponent.
Yeah,
I'll give you that. But Exeter going out to Keene last week and winning a slugfest, a 13-3 game.
Very nice win.
They didn't exactly put a ton of points and put a lot of yardage up on the board against Keene, and not a lot of teams do.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect them to.
I wouldn't expect them to either. But last year's Exeter team, you would probably expect them to go in and put up a lot of points on Keene, don't you?
Yeah,
think?
I mean, again, it's week 3, so I mean, we kind of can gauge. Again, halfway through the season, 4 or 5 weeks, that's when you really figure it out. But I mean, this Winnicott team, there's a lot they don't know about themselves. But I'll tell you, they have no fear. Exeter. I mean, rivalry games are always. They're more scary for the favorite than they are the underdog, because teams play, they go to their highest level when they get into a game like that. Winnicott beat Exeter last year, then had to sit back and listen to everyone crown Exeter as the state champions after they had beaten them in their own house. So
should they have, if you were a voter or you did postseason rankings or whatever, or final end of season rankings, would you have had Winnicott? Do you think Winnicott last year was better than Exeter was?
Yeah, they beat them head to head. I mean, the argument was that Exeter wasn't really trying because I can't remember who, maybe Roger Brown. Somebody was saying that, well, I was there and Exeter was, doing this and they were going for it on 4th and long, and they were, I don't know, they played. I mean, there was a huge crowd there and they kept scoring everything.
So you're saying that Winnicott should have.
They had the same record and they beat them head to head.
But I mean, that game was like week 3 or week 4 of the season. Now, don't you say? I base my ballots, my votes on where you are at this point right now. So at the end of the season, I said, okay, I got Exeter, I got Winnicott. Exeter won the D1 championship. Winnicott won the D2 championship. If these two teams played today, I thought that Exeter would win, and that's why I voted them number 1.
So you're voting on what you think. I'm voting on what happened. They won the game,
and I realize that they won the game.
How do you know who's going to win? You're in the picks. You're in last place for who you're picking to win. So how does your vote? How is your vote correct if you're admitted earlier? Well, I'm 11-9 in the picks, but if they played each other, I think Exeter would win. Well, you're 11-9, so you're probably wrong.
Maybe I am, and they do, and I think they have Winnicott had a legitimate beef. This year, that point is moot because the game actually counts in the standings. That's why it's
fantastic. Yeah, it's great.
That game didn't count in the standings, and I think what these polls are about conversation and arguments, just like we just had.
I don't even have a vote. I've only been doing it for 7 years. Why would I have a vote? But largest high school website in New Hampshire. But hey, what do I know?
No, but I'm not trying to get snippy with you or anything like that. I'm just saying that I just base it on I think, who I think is the best team.
We're arguing about high school football. I mean, it's fun.
I know,
but that's the way I feel. I feel if they played head to head. See, I'm scarred by the old Notre Dame Miami stuff, where Notre Dame would beat Miami, and then they'd have the same record at the end of the season. Miami would be ranked higher, and it was really Lou Holtz would sit there and do his thing at the press conference. I'm really confused by this. Could someone explain?
Yeah.
We beat them, didn't we? Didn't they come here and we beat them, or was that somebody else? I'm forgetting who it was.
It's about competition. It's about how you're playing right now. Injuries play a role. I mean, Winnicott, I thought, took a dip last year when they lost Franzoso. They didn't really have the same offense without Franzoso. I think he missed 4 games.
Yeah.
So that was part of the reason why I thought Exeter was better. Simple as that. And we're running out of time. So, once again, check out the highlight package from last night's Londonderry Bedford game on nhsportspage.com. We're bringing the camera out there. John Kesty, the great John Kesty, is going to film the game, Exeter at Winnicott. So everybody can get a look at both of those teams. Very much looking forward to that. And you're going to be there too?
Yeah, this is why we cover high school sports, is days like today.
Yes.
Simple as that.
Let's hope the sun comes out. When I came in this morning, it was all cloudy. I want sunshine and 75, so when we're on the roof of the press box at Bill Ball Stadium, it's glorious sunshine raining down upon me. For Dave Haley from nhsportspage.com and John Kesty, I want to give a shout-out to our producer, Shannon Loconte, who got through it and did a heck of a job. I'm Pete Terrier. We'll see you next week, everybody.